Well, welcome to Bathtub Chats Book Club Edition. We are all gathered here tonight. Every single one of us book club ladies are here, excited and ready to check in with each other and talk about this great book. So I have to ask, did anyone do any additional past life work since the last book?
Well, okay, I didn't do any work, but I recently met someone that I had a past life with. And I'm genuinely curious to see what happens from this point forward. But I have this just strange feeling like I've known them, but I just met them. So, and it happened after we did the book club and everything. I was like, that's strange.
Well, we'll stay tuned.
I'll keep you updated.
I want to know more. That's very interesting. I need more.
It's one of the guys I play pickup soccer every week. And it's just an app and I sign up and I play. And usually there's a handful of people that come every time. And I've like made friends with some of them. But one of them is just like, I feel like I know you, but I've never heard of your name, never met you, and grew up different places, everything. But there's just that sense of we're friends already.
Did you tell him that?
No. No, it's more like, hey, how's your day?
Maybe not yet.
It's like, we're gonna hold off on that one for right now because
That could be a new pickup line. I think I met you in a past life. What's your name?
I love it. All right, well, we have one more thing we need to hear from Ashley. Last time you were telling us you couldn't get out of bed till like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Has anything changed on that?
Actually, yeah, I did 1.5-ish things. I did reach out to Tracy, but before that, I was like, I don't know how long this could take, so I'm gonna just try something. I took some like Palo Santo, lit it, and then I was like, I'm just gonna set the intention. If there's stagnant energy or just some bad energy or whatever, get out. I need to wake up in the morning, and I did that, and then I haven't had an issue waking up since.
Oh,
I don't know. It like I cleared
Good
something,
job.
and then I've been fine since.
That's right up Teresa's alley over there. I can see her smiling.
Girl, I sage every day and every night. So,
I
nothing
Palo
wrong with that.
Santo every day.
Oh, yeah. Keep that
Every
energy
day.
circulating.
Yep.
I've never used the Palo Santo. Now I want to go figure out what that is.
It smells
Is
so
that
good.
Wait, Ashlyn, you didn't know what it was either? I've never heard of that before. I've definitely heard of sage, but
We sell it online and we have Palo Santo sticks that have sacred geometry wood burned on it. We have ones with chakra symbols and sticks that say you're a goddess.
so for those listening, where can they order it?
Oh. Well, that's a shameless plug, but thanks for asking. BURBOCHIC.com. Yeah.
Love it. I'm
Yeah,
here for
they're
a shameless
pretty.
plug.
Yeah, thank you.
Book club soul family supporting each other. I love it.
All right, Annabeth, this next question's for you because everyone was really wanting to know. Did you buy that device that allows you to listen to your plants?
I haven't got it yet. So basically it's electrical signals, and then this device has been programmed to produce sounds based on those signals, and it uses synthesizer like sounds, and it's going to have some additional features. So I'm waiting a little bit, but I think it might be in the next couple months.
Well, let us know when you get it, and then you're going to have to explain that
will,
all
I
over
will.
again because I'm
Yeah.
thoroughly confused.
I want to know what it sounds like when you get it, when spring comes and
Yes.
all the little buds start growing and opening.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think there'll be a lot of different things to try with it.
So I wanted to throw just one little thing out there. You had asked about past lives, and one of my really good friends had listened to the podcast, and she ended up booking a session with Tracy. She did some cool past life exploration, which was so fascinating to me because, Teresa, that is what you had really mentioned on the last podcast, that something to you was just the fascination of what were your past lives and who did you have them with? And she wasn't really going to get big healing on that. She had some questions, but she wanted to hear more about her and her husband's relationship. I know she would be fine with me sharing this, but she had some really incredible past lives with her current husband. Tracy even told her that her current husband had asked her in other lives if he'd come with her to the next life. And that their dog in this life has been their dog in past lives and wanted to make sure to come into this life to be with them again.
Okay, that's
That's
really
the
sweet.
cutest thing ever.
We're doing this podcast for a reason, and I think that there are people that really are experiencing some transformation and trying new things, and what we're discussing, I really actually do believe is impacting people's lives. So I hope everyone feels really good about that.
Yeah. Thanks for leaning into the maybes.
So for the month of March, we have read the book 8 Rules of Love by Shetty, who is an award-winning author, and he at one point was a former monk, an incredibly successful podcaster, and a life coach. So the 8 Rules of Love, here is the summary. Nobody sits us down and teaches us how to love. So we are often thrown into relationships with nothing but romance movies and pop culture to help us muddle through, until now. Instead of presenting love as an ethereal concept or a collection of cliches, Shetty lays out specific, actionable steps to help you develop the skills to practice and nurture love better than ever before. He shares insights on how to win or lose together, how to define love, and why you don't break in a breakup. Inspired by Vedic wisdom and modern science, he tackles the entire relationship cycle from first dates to moving in together to breaking up and starting over. He shows us how to avoid falling for false promises and unfulfilling partners. By living Shetty's 8 rules, we can all love ourselves, our partner, and the world better than we ever thought possible. So overall, what did everybody like about it, or what did you not like? What did you think of the book?
Loved it. Loved it.
I absolutely loved it too. I was actually going to ask her opinion because she's read every other book besides this one. So I wanted to get hers first, but I absolutely loved it. I think this is something everyone should read. And I think this is one of those books that should go along with how frequently we talk about love languages. I think this should be right alongside that. And I think it was really helpful for me specifically to talk about the fighting styles and just understanding people better, right? Like, I feel like I'm generally decent at this stuff, but even things that I already knew, I loved how it was written as a nice reminder. And I thought he wrote it in such a humble way, because I think a lot of times these types of books, the modern self-help books, aren't always humble. And I think he really comes from a place of humility and wanting to help people, and also admitting his own experience and kind of wrongdoings that have led him to learn these lessons.
I absolutely loved it as well. I will say from the very beginning, just the title of it, I was afraid I wasn't going to like it, just because 8 rules of love, right? You fall into that stigma of what is right and what is wrong. It didn't really allow for flexibility, unlike everything else. It's like, if you feel like this, then do this. If this feels good, then do that. Like everything else that we've kind of done. But the title of the book, I was kind of like, oh boy, right or wrong. That was it. There was no in between. There was no maybe, which kind of goes against, in my opinion, what Love Ignites Peace is leaning into those maybes. That was my initial, and then I just ended up loving the book.
I really liked it too. Actually, I underestimated my ability to read it because I almost am finished with it, but I found myself writing and highlighting. So I didn't complete it in the time I thought, because I thought I'd just read it and then put it down. I think the way he writes too, it's so informative, but not like overwhelming informative. All the information feels like you were sitting down and it was just a deep conversation where you're having someone where, you know, you could have those deep conversations for hours. And then you look at the time and you're like, oh my gosh, we've been talking for 4 hours and the conversations just flowed. I feel like that's kind of how the book has been reading, because usually, like I said, I speed read, but this I've really sat and just absorbed every word and really just like, wow, yeah.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I still have 30, 40 pages to go. And I even told Paige when I talked to her last week, I said, yeah, I don't think I'm going to finish this book because I need to absorb every single word to this. I mean, when I got to rule 7, I think is where I'm at, I was just like, I'm okay if I don't finish it, just because I feel like the meat of it
I really liked the way, and maybe some of you picked up on it. It really was a building block. So it's not do this, do this, do this, do this. It really is a foundation, and each foundation built on itself. And in the way he wrote it, for me personally, it allowed me to do a lot of the exercises. I wanted to do the exercises that were in there. It made me want to know me, and am I on the right track with what I think and feel my values in love and partnership really are. And it was very validating for me in that part. That's really why I liked it.
Annabeth, we haven't heard from you.
I thought it was excellent. And like Teresa just said, the building blocks, I feel like I remember most of the important parts, the basics of everything. I feel like they've stuck with me all the way through. And the way he aligned it all, I don't think I'll forget them, because it was such a logical progression, I guess is the best way to say it. And I took so many notes in this tiny notebook. I filled a third of this notebook with notes just for this book. It's like a ton of pages. I was just like compelled. I've not done that with any book that we've read so far, that I felt like I needed to take notes necessarily, because it's a lot of work, honestly, when you're just trying to read. And I just kept taking notes. I think there were so many good, just basic ways of being in the world and relating to people in every type of relationship you can think of. And at the end, where he's going through how we can be in all the different forms of love all the time. And I thought, this is beautiful. So I really liked it. I thought it was a really grounded and well laid out piece.
I actually did too. I really liked it. I liked it more than I thought I was going to like it. What you said, Annabeth, and even what Jenna said, all of those things are so practical. It doesn't matter if you're in a romantic relationship or not. They're just good foundational things when it comes to the big picture of love. And I thought it was so cool, Jenna, when you said this should be with the love languages. Yes, it should. Like, there should be, everyone should get into a relationship, and then they have 5 books that they have to read. 8 rules of love, love languages, the 4 agreements is a good one, a really good one. It's just how to be with each other, and how to be with each other in a happy, respectful, kind, loving, wonderful manner.
I think that was the gem of this 8 rules. The first relationship is with yourself. If we don't know who we are, and we can't find self-love and self-respect, self-awareness, how are we going to connect to another living human being? That's where the frequency and the ebbs and flows come. Where are we with ourselves? And that was really what I got out of the book.
I love that too. And to me, it just tied in so strongly with Love Ignites Peace, because right now that's really what we're trying to help everyone do, is strengthen and work through this relationship with themselves. Because until you're right with yourself, until you are in a healthier place and work through some of your traumas and your false beliefs and your limitations and your soul's baggage, whatever it isn't as easy or as healthy to engage in a relationship. And that can look like any sort of relationship, whether it's a romantic one or a platonic friendship, or even just how you show up in the world. You change yourself, you change the world. So if you really want to make a difference in the world, it's work on yourself.
That saying, like attracts like, well, you better like yourself or love yourself, because that's what you're going to be attracting. It's a reflection of each of us. That's who we attract.
I was going to say, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but what you just said reminds me of the karma piece. And I loved how he wrote about karma. He was explaining karma is not the principle that you do something good and good happens to you, or you do something bad that bad happens to you. It's that the energy you put out is reciprocated. So if you are a dishonest person, why do you expect people to be honest to you? Or if you are unkind, why do you expect to receive all of this kindness? Like when he puts it like that, it just makes sense. It's not like the world's out to get you. It's when you put that good, kind, loving, thoughtful energy, it's going to come back to you. And I think that that's the whole idea of the love here in a romantic relationship, but then as the book ties around, just in loving the world. If you expel love to all these different layers, romantic, platonic, the earth he mentions, just all of your communities, that comes back in abundance to you. So it starts with you, flows out, and then comes back to you.
Again, like what Jenna said, we might be getting ahead of ourselves here, but that was by far my favorite section of the book. So much so, and I'll let Paige tell you when I texted her, that section was hit home for me and I loved it.
Yeah, there was the one sentence that's so simple. Karma is a mirror showing us where our choices have led us. People get so hung up in, oh, that karma's going to come back and get you. And well, that's why this happened, because bad karma. It almost has like a weird vibe to it when he just made it so simple. It's just a mirror.
I think ever since I've read that, I don't think I've referenced karma at all. I'm not going to do that. That's bad karma. Like that has probably not come out of my mouth since I read that.
Yeah.
I'm just like too scared to use it because I'm waiting for the correct context to use it.
Our next question was, what chapter spoke to you in the deepest way and why was that? Do we have 3 votes for the karma chapter?
Yeah. It just kind of cleared the road of what most people perceive karma is. And he just wrote it in a way, it's just a roadmap of where you've been. That's all. Not good or bad, not all this heavy stuff. And it's simple. And that's what I liked about his writing. It was direct, simple, easy to understand, and very informative.
What's fascinating is this ties perfectly and truly. I know that sometimes we really do plan these things to all go together, but this month, for the month of March at Love Ignites Peace, we've been focusing on this idea of mindfulness. In our series of Love as a Mindfulness Practice, we've talked about this idea that when you're being mindful in love, you're recognizing those mirrors around you. You're recognizing the karma that has occurred in your life that has brought you to this moment. So to me, it's no coincidence, now tying in the Celestine prophecy, that we're having this conversation. And on the note of mindfulness, I also thought it was fascinating in the first rule of solitude, it talks about being alone as a mindfulness practice. It's not just enough to be alone and have a TV on and drink wine and try to forget that you're alone. Truly, the practice of being alone is a mindfulness practice. You have to slow down. You have to be present to whatever you're doing. And that was a huge one for me to think about, because I've spent a lot of time as a single flamingo alone. And last year, honestly, it was one of my happiest times because I really slowed down and let myself be mindful in that moment of being alone with myself. But I thought that was another really good chapter. I don't know that it was my favorite one, but I just had to tie that one back into mindfulness and all the things that we're speaking about this month.
I like the alone, kind of that question and answer where what do you do? So you had to log in your hours of when you're alone. But alone isn't watching TV. That didn't count as alone. So I actually did that and logged everything in. There were just a lot of really good exercises in here to make you look around and are you sure you're on the right track of what you want to do? And it was fun. I liked doing some of those exercises. I thought they were great.
What did you find in your documentation?
I'm pretty on track with crafting or yoga, different things like that, cooking. Just, I really looked at every little part. And am I alone in doing it? Or did I have distractions like a TV going in the background? And if I did, I would turn the TV off. So it just kind of made me a little more aware.
Something else I really felt about the Alone chapter was this reflection of I went into college with the expectation that that's where I was going to meet the love of my life. My parents met freshman year of college. Most people, that was kind of the story I think many of us were fed growing up. But I cannot tell you how grateful I am for all of this time that I have had alone, because it has made me who I am today. And I feel that I will be a better wife, I will be a better mom, I will be a happier individual because of this solitude, because of this time I'd had with me, myself, and I to get to know what I like, what I don't like, who I am, how I love, how I operate, what fills me up, what depletes me. And in gaining that identity through solitude, I now feel I'll be in a much better position to be in a healthier relationship. So I love that. And things like solo travel. I went and taught English in Thailand by myself. I flew across the country for 6 months, and that was scary and that was bold, and I missed the heck out of my family, and no, I wouldn't do it again. But and I met amazing people. But the confidence that you gain in yourself when you push yourself out of these comfort zones, it's just insane. Like, if I could recommend anybody, go and truly spend some time alone. I love how people are like, I've been single for a month, I've taken some time. I'm like, oh my gosh. Somebody said this the other night. I was like, are you serious? It's been a month. Anyways, so
Well, this is a side note story about Ashlyn in Thailand. I think her bravest moment was when she outran a rabid dog on her scooter.
Yeah, honestly, I'm so lucky that nothing worse happened. I literally had to run my scooter into a ditch. And thank the Lord I didn't break anything. And like, anyways, yes, that was a wild travel story, but you know. So anyways, Mom, did you have one that you liked? I know that you were trying to pipe in there when I was still going.
Oh, I was going to ask others what they thought. But since you've asked me, I'll pipe in. No one's mentioned the guru chapter.
I actually have the most highlights in the guru chapter out of all of them.
I have to say my favorite rule probably was the guru chapter. I just thought it, it's such a challenge, right? To be in an intimate relationship and to be a guru in that relationship instead of being a here's what you need to do kind of person in that relationship. So really, the thought of it is definitely how I want to show up in the world, but it also challenged me. Paige, you just gotta, if this is really what you want to do, you can't tell people what to do.
I think that was my least favorite, and that's my own personal insecurities about my placement and my worth in my relationship, because my husband is leaps and bounds ahead of me when it comes to our relationship and getting it. And if I just say I don't like, he just figures it out. Now let's be clear, it's not all the time, but like when it's the important things, he knows, he gets it. But probably one of my favorite lines is actually out of the Guru's chapter.
Annabeth and Ashley, we haven't heard from you guys. Did you have a favorite rule or chapter?
I really thought the way it started off with the solitude was just brilliance, and I've heard several of you say this already, but just the important part of attending to yourself first before you're ready for anyone else. And I think something to think about day to day in any interaction, whether it's a partner or whether it's someone you're encountering at work. I don't know, it just all seems, if you're working on yourself, you're taking care of yourself, you are better for all of that. So I was very into that. But the guru, I also loved that because it made me feel like, oh, we're living in our own little monastery. I love that. I've called this house I live in my desert mountain monastery because that's how I think of it. So that just fit right in, and I loved that idea.
You have a little monk in you too, huh, Annabeth?
Maybe.
Ashley, what about you?
My favorite was the rule 5, purpose comes first. And that hit my soul in all types of relationships with family, friends, romantic, just because with for me, for soccer, that it's such a commitment. I mean, my whole life has always been soccer has come first just because it's been such a commitment that now it gets harder, especially with the level we're trying to pursue. But I mean, there's important things that I've had to miss. This is my purpose for me right now. For me, the people that truly love me and care for me, like my parents and really, really close friends, they would never give me the choice of like, oh, well, you pick that or this. Well, I'm going to always pick this. And I'm always going to want to make things work and whatever. But at the end of the day, this is my purpose. And the people that know me and love me support that. Always my parents would say, you need to do this. Like, soccer is what you want to do. Like, you need to do this. Don't worry about it. Come afterwards, or whatever the case is. So that was my favorite chapter. And especially when it comes to looking more for like a partner and stuff like that, that's something someone else has to understand. I'm my own priority. I hope that you are your own priority. We'll take care of ourselves. And then after that, we can help each other, not take care necessarily of each other, but like, and I feel like a lot of people these days are like, I'm going to take care of you. You're my number one priority. And I'm like, I'm going to go. Please don't. Like, that's the first thing for me to go out the door. Like, I'm not your priority at all.
We're kindred spirits in that, I think, Ashley. When I find a partner, he is definitely going to have to honor the fact that my purpose is my number one priority.
All I'm saying is my husband can have a bazillion priorities. The only priority he must fulfill is 7:30 every morning. Coffee has to be delivered. Outside of that, you go do you, boo. I don't care. I cannot function without 7:30 a.m. coffee.
That's funny. I have to say, honestly, Ashley, that was probably the chapter that resonated the most with me at this time in my life. And that's what I was kind of reflecting on earlier, that I think each of these rules will resonate depending where you are in your journey. So one rule today might be like, oh yeah, check, done. And I think I'm in that stage right now where my purpose comes first. I really feel on fire about Love Ignites Peace. And what is amazing and beautiful is that you're right. Like, your friends and family that really do get it will understand for a certain amount of time. And, there's shifts and there's conversations that have to be had, but I'm a huge, huge, huge family girl. Like, it is my number one thing. And in the past 6 months, I have talked to my family less than I ever had before. And of course, I still talk to them because that fills my soul and my cup and it's a priority to me. But I've had to really put my purpose first here. And again, because of that love and respect and the communication around it, it's been a really big thing. So I think it's amazing. And I think it's such a beautiful way where you don't ever look for somebody else to fill yourself up. If you have something that you're going out in the world that fills you up, then you aren't depending on someone else to do that, which I think is where a lot of us get lost sometimes.
I was just going to say, like the old saying, like, when your cup is filled up and it overflows into others, when you literally witness someone who's pursuing something and really passionate and just energetic about what they're doing, and you watch it, it literally ignites that within you. You're like, wow, like, I'm inspired. They're doing that and they're so invested in this. If you don't have something, usually you're like, I need to find something because that's some great energy that I need to take part of.
I was just going to say, we were talking about how the different rules can apply to different places in our life. And I would probably say rule 6 definitely applies to Brent and I. Win together, lose together. We might not always agree, but we will always come back to the table.
That's the one I'm in as well. But I think these would hit anyone differently. And I feel like it's so interesting to reflect. Not that you ever necessarily check the boxes on some of these things. For example, I feel like I did a very good job of being alone, embracing singledom. I can't tell you how many times Ashlyn was my date to like college sorority dances. We just did not care. Like, everyone else was like, who's going to be my date? I need to impress this guy. We were just living our best lives being single flamingos, as Ashlyn says, and we just couldn't care less. Like, we were embracing that. Having said that, I think that some of these are also not just you check it off. There are that ebbs and flows about how you feel about yourself and how you feel being alone. But I felt like I did a good job on that. Don't ignore your karma. Like, check. I feel like, wow, looking back, I feel like I hit a lot of these milestones and I'm proud of how I hit them. And I'm in a serious relationship. So the one that I feel hits me hard is the win or lose together. because I just think it's the most relevant. In fact, I honestly didn't even read Rule 7 because I know the person I'm with is the person I'm going to marry. But however, 3 or 4 years ago, Rule 7 about the breakup, I would have been highlighting everything, like really needing that. So it's like these are going to hit you differently at different points. The other thing I really loved about this, and this isn't necessarily pertaining to any of the rules, but just the book as a whole, is I think this just really encapsulates what love is at its core. And I love how he talked about the fairy tale piece, because I think a lot of people just go, well, love isn't a fairy tale, love isn't like the movies, but they don't explain why. I think when people say it like that, it sounds kind of depressing. Don't get your hopes up. Love isn't like the movies. And it's like, no, it's not, in one sense, because every day you're not like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm getting swept off my feet. You're living daily life and you're doing it with someone alongside you. And sometimes that's hard and you have disagreements and you irritate each other. And the mundane of everyday life is not a fairy tale, and being in a relationship is not one by any means. And I think he explains that. He's like, but the things you do get out of that, where you have this partner that you're in lockstep with and you're learning with and you're growing yourself and your passion, and like, I think he explains why. And to me, that's so much greater than any like fairy tale or corny movie could ever encompass.
Yeah, because there's a real depth to it.
I was going to say, it's way deeper
Yeah.
than the fairy tale.
But he also makes that depth beautiful, whether or not it's painful or whether or not it's pleasure. And I think he does an amazing job with that. Like, hey, if we got to break up, you can still do it in a very healthy way. You don't need to throw their stuff out a window, set it on fire. It's fine. He's like, you can do this. Just make sure you do it safely. And I think that was something else I really did like that. And I don't know if it's maybe just my past of being involved with a domestic violence organization and going to their galas and listening to the keynote speaker and all of that. But I just love that he was like, right here is like, if this doesn't feel good, don't do it. And if you're not sure, call this. There are people. And I guess that was just like a little place that touched my heart.
Abuse is never the right thing. And I was glad he mentioned that in there too.
It just gave me a sense of hope. That just in the most random place, there it was. There's that information you need. There's that outreach. There's that olive branch.
Part of all that, this whole love, and he had all the different words for love and all the different languages and what it means. The conversation came up in meditation the other night about loving self, honoring self, and abuse came in, being impeccable with your word. What is your self-talk? Most people abuse themselves more than anyone on a daily basis can abuse them. There are so many different ways of getting hurt. And one of the most important things is, how do we talk to ourselves? What's that internal dialogue? And that's where kind of the love really starts. What do you say to yourself? How do you talk to yourself? What thoughts are going on? Because I guarantee what you think and what you're saying internally, it shows externally. It just does. And people energetically will respond to that. So self-talk is self-love.
And I think part of it too also kind of relates back to that impressions that we kind of talked about, 4 or 5 rules back, right? Which is that first impression is, if somebody is abusing you, well, then you're going to say that that's okay later. And that's kind of part of that karma. And until you change that, you can't know anything different.
Something else I was just thinking about, and this isn't exactly from the rules, but we've talked about this concept before of iron sharpens iron. And I was dating a guy once who his self-talk wasn't kind to himself. He'd call himself a fat ass, and he was not. And before you know it, a couple months later, I'm walking and I hear myself in my head go, "You fat ass." And I literally, in that moment, was like, oh, hell no. Because again, I'm picking up on, I would never, ever, 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 ever have called myself that. That is not a part of my self-talk. That is not what Paigey told me to do when she said, look in the mirror and say, I love you, you're perfect, you're whole, you're complete. And so just being cognizant of who you surround yourself as well and how that can impact that love of self and those experiences. Okay, not one of the rules, but I think an important add-on to what you're saying. And I had a conversation that day. It was like, I can't be having that self-talk around me. Like that just came into my head and that's not healthy and that's not okay. And, you gotta check yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Did any of you write a love letter to yourself? Did any of you challenge yourself and actually write a love letter to yourself?
So I have a funny story about that. I guess not funny, but a coincidental story about that. Even before I read this chapter, I was driving my car and I had this random moment where I had a couple of weeks of just not feeling great about myself. And then I just had this moment where I thought of all of the things that I was proud of myself for and for accomplishing and living a passion. And I was just kind of like going through them in my head, and I was like, you know what, damn it, I'm awesome. And I literally told myself I need to record a video of myself as if I were talking to a close friend and just hitting those milestones of the things that I'm just most proud of at my core, so I can play it back to myself when I'm having a bad day. And then later read this book and it's telling me to do pretty much exactly that. So I think I need to do it.
I think it's
I
a
would
great
do it.
idea.
In about 40 years, you're going to look back and look at yourself telling your 40-year older self how amazing you are. I would love to have a video of myself 40 years ago saying how awesome and all the things that you're going to do. And here's what I've done. Wouldn't that be cool? Do it.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Did you write a letter to yourself, Teresa?
Oh, yes. I did a lot. I mean, I've done it before and stuff, but I thought, well, if I'm going to read the darn book, I'm going to do what it says. And it's kind of like making the video. What do I think about myself? What am I proud of? What's cool? Because if I don't love it, how am I going to attract good friends? Or why would my family want to be around me if I don't think I'm all that, right?
Teresa,
The love.
I just want you to be clear that I think you're all that.
Oh,
I absolutely think you're all that.
The one
you are
exercise that I wanted to do that I have not done yet and is on my list is I actually wanted to write a love letter to the world. That was the very last one, and that was the one that really jumped out to me to do. We should probably move on and maybe answer a few more questions. And one of them was submitted from a listener. And the question was, what did you think of the approach of combining the Vedic principles with the topic of a romantic relationship? Did this take away or enhance the big points?
I thought it was pretty brilliant. He was talking about how the Vedas have been around for, I think he said 5,000 or 6,000 years. And you think about the ancient nature of that wisdom and how it applies immediately right now, the way that he has presented it to us. Makes you feel very human. Because we've been like this and we've been trying to do this for a long time. And it was pretty brilliant, the connections he made.
I'm going to offer a little bit of a counter. And I think this is also indicative of the way people's brains work. And for me, I'm just not that girl that like has to have 1,000 data points to get on board with a thought. And I don't think that makes me weak-minded. I really feel like that's just because I feel into what resonates and what doesn't from a more intuitive level for me. That's just kind of how I've been. I have dear friends that will research for 10 days, everything under the sun about something. I'm like, nope, that works for me. I feel good about it from the start. And so in this case, I didn't need the Vedic principles to resonate with the points. Not that it wasn't cool, but it didn't really enhance a lot for me. And I kind of just zoomed past the words and just got straight to the point of what he was trying to get at with that. But I do think it was very beautifully done. And I think that what we're trying to do at Love Ignites Peace and through this book club as well is make ancient wisdom modern. And that's what he's done. And that I think will really change the world.
I do have to chime in with Annabeth. I thought it was brilliant, but Annabeth knows I just eat stuff like this up every day. I love this kind of stuff. I just thought it was really great about the Dharma and bringing all those old ancient terms to life in such a modern way.
I think I could have taken it or left it. I think mostly because I was sitting there going, okay, how would I pronounce that? But it was really cool because also referencing what I was talking about earlier is out of the karma chapter is I was inspired out of that, and I'm going to get a tattoo because of that chapter. Never had a tattoo in my life, but something just made a huge impression on me that I was like, this is what I'm going to get. This is my thing.
Well, I can't wait to see that on the next podcast.
Are you going to do this soon, Darian, or wait till your birthday?
Ooh, I don't know. It has to be perfect. So, I mean, it could be next week. I'm going to know somebody who knows Sanskrit. Brent has probably corrected me 40 times at this point. But do I want it actually in the written language or do I want it in English translation? I just haven't decided yet. Yeah, I'm super excited. I know where it's going to go. And I think it's going to be beautiful because from every direction I could see it unless someone cuts my arm off. So
this is hilarious. I love the fact that you said you could take it or leave it, but you're going to get a Sanskrit tattoo after reading this book.
I know. Hi, welcome to Darian.
I think it's interesting that we loved the chapter on karma. And I think it's because we use the word karma. We get karma. We don't really talk about a lot of these other Vedic words. So I think that maybe that was also a little bit of a gap where I'm like, take it or leave it, kind of like you said. Because I'm not getting a tattoo, Darian, but I'll go with you if you want.
I think right now I have an entourage of 20 people because nobody believes I'm actually going to do this.
Yeah, can we record a podcast from the tattoo parlor?
Yeah, I actually think you need to tell all the 20 people to stay home, and we need to make this a book club outing.
Wait, this is genius. Christmas party, book club in December. We're going to get Darian's tattoos. Everyone's in Colorado. Let's go.
All right, it's fine. It'll be great. It'll be a great party. Now, let's be clear. They might like hit me with the needle and I'll cry like a giant baby. It'll be fine. We'll call it vulnerable edition.
Yeah, right. All right. Darian submitted a question, and she would like to know, understanding that this book is mainly focused on intimate relationships, did it affect anyone in any of their other relationships?
I think it's affected the way I think about interacting with other people completely, just in terms of approaching conflict and in terms of approaching people who are difficult. I think every method he described for keeping peace in a conversation, I'm like, oh, I know who to use that with, you know? So I think, you know, it's these 8 rules of love, starting with the self and ending with, you know, the entire world. And it does feel like most of what he wrote just applies to love in general and being loving in general. I immediately was plugging it into other relationships in my head. So.
Right. And you don't have to sacrifice yourself.
No,
and still be loving.
No, not at all.
That's what I found most interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that part too, because I think I kind of struggle with that where I think, okay, if I really love this person, and I'm talking about, you know, non-romantic relationships, I have to like do X, Y, and Z for them. And sometimes you feel like you're overextending yourself or overstretching yourself, especially with certain people. You know, if you've had someone in your life since you were a kid and they're like a friend of a friend or something, and you still want them in your life, but it always kind of feels like draining if you hang out with them too much. And so that made me feel really at peace with, no, you can actually love someone from afar, and you're doing both of you a service by loving them from afar or putting some boundaries on how often you're going to interact with them, because ultimately that will lead to resentment if you feel like you're just overextending yourself for people in the name of love, but then you're not really loving yourself, which is the part that is the most important, as we've talked about.
for me, the underlying kind of tagging off of what you're saying, really, there's an intent behind it. And if the intent, I feel like I need to do that, or, well, we've been friends so long, I should. The intent is such a low vibration then. So is that really loving someone? So I always try to stop and look at what my intent is and then go from there. It's kind of like a springboard for me. So intent is big with love for me.
Well, knowing Teresa, honestly, she is a role model for boundaries. You are. You've always done a really good job with boundaries. And I think boundaries are one of the hardest things that we do in relationships, just kind of depending on how our personality is geared. We do want to self-sacrifice. We want to rescue. We want to fix. All of these things that maybe really aren't a way of loving ourselves.
Or really loving the other person.
Or loving the other person.
Or the activity, or so many things. The intent will help set the boundary. Mm-hmm. And the boundary starts with self. How much do I honor me? It's a work in progress.
Those of you that are in relationships, are you going to make your partners read this book?
Yes.
1000%. I already told them it's a requirement. Which is probably not what I was supposed to do from the listening to this book. I probably should No, I didn't quite say it like that. I was just like, I think he would really like this. I didn't do any of the activities explicitly. I kind of thought through them in my head because I wouldn't have finished the book like so many of you were saying. I was like, I gotta get through this. I was like stress reading. So I need to go back and do the activities. But I kind of stopped on some of them, and I like made Martin read certain things, or like reflected on different time periods, and we were talking through our purposes and using this as a conversational piece. I just got more like excited for him to read it because I'm like, I want to know what you think. I want to like know which activities you want to do and that we can do together. It's a fun opportunity.
Honestly, I think any relationship, there's love in there somewhere because we're human and we're all connected. I think I would recommend, and I have, anybody that I know, if I'm friends with you, I love you, read this. There's this guy this last week that's sort of been flirting with me at the place I work out. And I'm like, okay, if it goes further than him walking me to the stairs, where is this going to fit in? Because girlfriend, this is somehow going to land in that man's lap. If it goes
Carry it with you.
So, that's what I'm thinking of as he says, can I walk you to the stairs? That's what I thought. How is this going to show up here and when? Yeah, I love that.
Oh, yes, I left my book on the stair. Oh, wait, actually, I didn't want
So my husband and I have this thing where if I tell him something, he's like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. But if somebody else tells him exactly what I just said, he's like, it's gospel, right? And we both do this to each other. It's our nuance. It's our thing. So what I did do, and I'm really hoping he's not anywhere around right now, I actually called our therapist the other day and I was like, hey, have you read this book? And we go to therapy. I've talked about this in previous podcasts, but we go to therapy as our check-in. And he's like, no, tell me about it. And so I'm like, of course, of course, he's looking it up while we're talking. He's like, I just want you to know I've ordered it. It's fine. So that's how he's going to get served this book.
So you didn't specifically say, can you tell Brent to read this book to the therapist? You're just allowing that to happen?
Yep.
Wow, you're such a guru, Darian.
It seemed a little deceitful, I'm not going to lie. But again, we do really well. I mean, in our relationship, I am definitely not saying we're perfect by any means. We have our moments, but he is definitely my favorite human being by far.
That's cool.
That's what the movie should be about.
I've been married twice and I'm not sure I've ever thought that they were the to say
that they were your favorite human being.
So I'm impressed by you.
Well, It's not even me. I think it's that very yin and yang. Like I said, I've had a ton of traumas in my past, and he will tell you openly. He's had a very, very charmed life. You know, he had parents that were married for 50 years. The passing of his mom was something that movies are made out of, and his father, and how that kind of, you know, her passing and his grieving, and it's crazy. And so him coming in with that immense love and me coming in with that lack of love, and somehow we have made this work. I'm not gonna lie, not only was I nervous from the very beginning of the right or wrongs, I'm like, oh, it was kind of like shaky reading this book. I'm like, is this gonna challenge? I was like, nope, that just reinforced us. Thanks, Toots.
Wait, Darian, that's exactly how I felt, but we can get into that later. Like, I was like, oh no, is this gonna like, because I'm a very like overthinker, so I feel like that reinforced everything for me too. I would love to talk to you about that another time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's us and our Virgo, right? Like, we're gonna get off this podcast and we're like, oh crap, what did I say? Oh no, what is everyone gonna judge? And we're gonna go down that path. That's just us.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's funny.
Well, one thing I want to throw in there is just for those listening, one, don't be intimidated if you're in a relationship. From any level of your relationship, there's really good things that can be found in this. And I think that's really what Darian and Jenna were just saying. Because I could very much see once you're in a committed relationship, what if you look and find something you don't like? What if everything's good and then you start to look further and then, oh crap, you just earned it? No, that's not this kind of book.
Definitely not. This book is incredible because it did kind of, in one very specific section, it did kind of throw me into PTSD a little bit of a previous relationship and like the experiences that I had. And I'm going to tell you, if nothing else, it empowers you to say, yeah, no, this is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. But it doesn't tell you you're wrong. It empowers you to say, no, and this is wrong. It is your decision, not someone else making that decision for you, in which is what you've been experiencing. Sorry, I just got really passionate about that.
No, that was great. No, I love it. And the other thing, I just want to add a really quick note in here. I thought I had a gazillion pages left of the book, and I thought I wasn't going to finish it because the end of the book is like 100 pages of like in depth. And I'm reading, I'm like already through like lesson 7 and I still have 30% of the book to go. Like, what else is going to be left? So if you're reading this on Kindle or you're picking up the book and you're getting intimidated, just know that the last chunk is data. But anyways, it might have intimidated me to stop because I was like, how many more? I've already read like all of these things. So.
Super quick is Teresa said she has like recommended this book to everybody. And I have recommended this book to everybody. And then some, like professionals, friendships, not my relationship, but you know why. I mean, like everybody, my neighbors, like everybody knows. I'm pretty sure like the last 20 screenshots on my phone are this book.
I think Paige asked earlier, what top books would you recommend? This definitely is in my top 5 when I have people come over. I will definitely add this in recommendation for sure.
All right. Well, we should probably start wrapping this up. So, Darian, how do you rate this book?
5.
Darian is a 5. Teresa.
5.
Annabeth.
5.
Wow. Jenna.
5.
Ashley.
5.
Ashlyn.
5.
Wow, me too. My gosh, 5 out of 5. Look at that.
5.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
awesome.
Wow.
We like this one.
Yes, we do. That's great.
We don't even have to get the calculator out.
Easy
No,
math.
No math.
No math. Just straight 5. Well, Mom, before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you a quick question that I think, you haven't said a lot on all the others. So, Mom, the last chapter is about perfecting love. And did you have any takeaway from that chapter in regards to love ignites peace?
Well, there was a quote that I thought was really great. And of course, this whole book was really about love ignites peace because it's living as love in the world and all aspects of love, how you receive it, how you give it, how you show up in the world. But the big idea, and the quote that I found that I really liked, was, we want love in our lives and we naturally assume it should take the form of romantic love. But it's a misconception that only love in your life is between you and your partner, your family, and your friends. It's a misconception that life is meant to be a love story between you and one other person. That love is just a stepping stone. Having a partner isn't the end goal. It's practice for something bigger, something life-changing, a form of love that is even more expansive and rewarding than romantic love. Our partnerships give us a chance to practice it, for we don't have to fulfill our romantic desires to get there. It's available to all of us every day, and it is infinite. And I think it's so amazing. I mean, what if everyone thought of love in this really big, global, universal sense?
The world would be a different place.
And, as Ashlyn talked about earlier, and the idea of love as a mindfulness practice, this whole book was love as a mindfulness practice. How can you bring love mindfully into your relationships and into the world?
So let's talk about next month's book.
Ashley's birthday is in May. She has the first upcoming birthday. She didn't pick this book, but she has told me this is one of her actual favorite all-time books. So she's already read this, but this is one of her favorites. And I have to admit, I've been a little trepidatious. Is that a word? Trepidatious?
Yes.
Annabeth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think. Sounds good.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good. About picking this, because I just was thinking, oh gosh, this maybe isn't going to be like that exciting a book. But I have briefly started reading it. I think it's not going to be a difficult read. You have any feedback on that, Ashley?
I'm trying to remember, because I think I read it almost like a year ago. It was like, I think around the summertime. I remember it being a lot of stories. A lot of the author would recount what happened for other people. I think he would say something and then be like, here's my evidence that's like why this would work, because this person did this and this is their story. That's what I can remember. I'm actually interested to read it again, because that was a time in my life when I started all the subconscious transformation work with Cher. So I absolutely loved the book because it was what I was going through at the time. So I'm curious to see if I like it as much, or if I feel like it's as impactful reading it a second time when it's not necessarily like the forefront of my mind.
Well, we should probably tell everyone what the book is. Just
Okay.
The
That was
book
literally
is
my question.
The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. We'll send the link out on that. And I know Annabeth, from reading what I send her all the time of writing, she's like, oh my God, not something else about the subconscious mind. But
we always need more.
Well, it is such an important thing, you guys. 95% of your mind is subconscious. What if you don't know 95% of yourself?
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And it's a little book. It's not a big book. I think it'll be an easy read.
Yeah, I think it'll be an easy read. So.
Okay, so I don't want to totally take this too long, but one of the questions that I really wanted to touch on, and I just want to leave this here for anyone who is exploring dating or interested in dating or trying to find any kind of romantic partner. One of the questions was about the 3-date rule, and I am all about it. And that's coming from a girl who was never all about it. I would go on dates and be like, nope, 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 definitely nope, nope. If someone gives like major red flags, then yeah, absolutely not. But if you're just like, that was fine, write it out for 3 dates, because you could be writing off someone that you otherwise should be with. And that was completely my experience. So I am adamant proponent of the 3-date rule.
But the way he did the 3 dates, the second date could be months to be technically classified as a second date. What you talk about, when's the right thing to bring things up. So that's what I liked about that. It wasn't date 1, and then next week we're going to go on date 2, and 3 days later, that's date 3. There was a lot in between, which I liked.
you can get super deep on a first date, but the reality is it's like, think about the people non-romantic that you love the most in your life. You didn't just fall head over heels non-romantically for them in one day. Sure, maybe there's some intrigue, but I have plenty of friends where it's like, I met them, we weren't like, oh my God, we're going to be best friends right away. I grew with time. And some of my like absolute best friends are like that. Like I would even say, Ashton, you and I, when we met, we were like, yeah, we really liked each other. We're like, this person has good vibes. She's cool. But I would have never known, oh my gosh, this is going to be one of my lifelong best friends until we hung out, let's call it 5 more times.
No, I just think it's cute using the 3-date rule to your friendship relationships too.
I mean, if I gave up on every first date, my husband and I would not be married. That's all I'm saying. Because the first time I met him, I was like, what in the world was our friend thinking? No. He didn't talk to me for the first 2.5 hours we were there. Definitely 3 dates, for sure.
What cracks me up is I've actually had a 3-date rule for a while. And I don't know why or when I decided this rule, but I did years ago. I'm like, I'll give it 3 dates. I'll give it 3 chances because you just never know. That first date, someone could be nervous. Someone just had an off day. And I've had it where the first date was great. The second date was not very good, but the third date was really good. So, you're kind of getting a feel. You're giving people more of a chance. And I think that that's really kind of what he was getting at. But I do agree with what you're saying, the intentionality and what you're uncovering.
Mm-hmm.
I did kind of disagree with the order because I think that the first date, it actually sometimes people don't show their full personality. I think sometimes people are too nervous. And that was his number one thing. So maybe applying what you said about it, Teresa, maybe the first date doesn't actually happen until a little bit into hanging out too. I don't know. But yeah, I love the 3-date rule idea. It really gives it a chance. And I think you really know after 3 dates.
I feel like Teresa can make it as far to the stairs 3 times and then she can give him the book. How about that?
He can walk me to the stairs. Then the next time, or I'm going to have him walk up the stairs, right? Then maybe the third time will be my car. And that's still not even a date.
Well, see, you can just have it on the dash of your car.
I'll carry it in my yoga
Very
bag.
subtle.
Yeah, that's what I think.
That's not
Carry it with you.
Exactly. It's a part of your gym. You have to have it. Go to the gym.
Yeah.
It's part of your gym
Yeah.
workout bag with your tennis shoes and your 8 rules of love.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. It was another great discussion, and how exciting that we all loved this book and gave it 5 stars.
Loved it. Good pick.
Good job, Monk Shetty.
Perfect
Yes.
5.
Nice to see all of you guys.
All right,
Nice to
everybody.
see you
Well,
guys.
we'll
Bye.
see you next month.
time.